The foundation just launched this week 50 billboards in Metro Atlanta and another 20 in Louisville, Kentucky. And we've recently placed billboards in the South in New Orleans, Tampa Bay, also the Eastern Seaboard, Trenton, New Jersey. So we do hope Atlanta has Freethought on its mind. And here's coverage from NBC TV Atlanta 11 Alive News.
And it lets people know that we're here.
Perry Mitchell is a lifelong member of an organization called the Freedom from Religion Foundation. An atheist himself, he's throwing his support behind an outdoor advertising campaign with an anti-religious message.
Really, the foundation is an educational organization. We're not proselytizing, to use a religious word. Mm-hmm. We just want people to understand how we feel and educate the public as to a different way of thinking about religion if they want to.
The Freedom from Religion Foundation provided 11 Alive News with these pictures that show the billboards displayed in other cities across the country. They carry messages like enjoy life now, there's no afterlife, sleep in on Sundays, and God and government, a dangerous mix.
The intention is not to ruffle feathers. It's to, as I say, get the word out that we are here and this is the way we feel about especially the separation of church and state.
Mitchell says he hopes the foundation's billboards help to recruit new members and encourage people to open their minds to a different way of thinking.
You know, I drive by lots of churches, and virtually every one of them has a message board on it that says something like Jesus is Lord and Savior. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. That's their belief, and that's what they want to say. That does not offend me. So I really don't understand why religious people get so offended by somebody that says, we just don't believe the same thing that you believe.
These 50 billboards are the largest single billboard campaign undertaken to date by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. It might be the largest by anybody ever, don't you think?
I don't know.
50 at one time, 50 in one city. People in Atlanta can look out for a variety of these small, colorful billboards around town, including one with particular meaning for FFRF and for Atlanta. It features the actress Butterfly McQueen. She lived in Georgia at the end of her life, and the billboard showcases her statement to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution made during the 50th anniversary year of the release of the movie Gone with the Wind, in which she played the role of Prissy, the little slave girl, Prissy. McQueen, who rebelled her entire life against religion, just like she rebelled against being stereotyped in these servant acting roles, Butterfly McQueen said, and this is the quote on the billboard, "As my ancestors are free from slavery, I am free from the slavery of religion." Butterfly McQueen was a lifetime member of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and she made an appearance at the FFRF's 1989 National Convention in Atlanta, where she was named FFRF's premier Freethought heroine. She died in a tragic kitchen fire in 1995. And I remember Butterfly on two different occasions, there in Atlanta and then once in New Jersey, where I got to play the piano for her. And she sang with her little white gloves, and she stood by the piano, and in both occasions she sang the Yip Harburg Harold Arlen song, "It's Only a Paper Moon," and that was really a pleasure to get to meet her and to know her. And you met her too, didn't you, Annie Laurie?
Yeah, I got to interview her when I was a college student. But the Daily Cardinal editor nixed my column. It was the only copy I had. It never got published, so I don't have her interview. It was very interesting to me. And so we do hope discrimination against atheists and other non-believers will soon be gone with the wind. Other billboards up throughout Atlanta include the words "In Reason We Trust," depicted on a shiny penny, "Imagine No Religion" with a stained glass window, "Red, White, and Blue, God and Government, a Dangerous Mix," and the jocular "Sleep In on Sundays."
And not to overlook our campaign going up this week for a month also in Louisville, Kentucky. In fact, we got an email from one of our members who didn't know about it, and the billboard showed up right across the street from his house. Atheism is shining bright with 20 billboards posted in Louisville, including "Imagine No Religion" on the stained glass window background, "In Reason We Trust," which is the motto on the penny, our new motto on the penny, "Praise Darwin, Evolve Beyond Belief," with the Darwin portrait, and then the billboard about Butterfly McQueen as well.
Among the notable local Louisville seculars in history are Louis Brandeis, who was non-religious and, of course, served on the U.S. Supreme Court, and Josephine K. Henry, who is the main lobbyist responsible for the 1894 passage of the Women's Property Rights Act, and she was a very overt atheist.
Now, although Stephen Foster never set foot in Kentucky, his song, My Old Kentucky Home, ties his name indelibly with that state. Stephen Foster appeared to be entirely secular. He never joined a church. His sister tried to get him to go to church, and he wouldn't. He wrote secular music, except towards the end of his life when he was hungry. He agreed to write some Sunday school songs, which many of them were actually secular melodies that he recast. And then his 1846, one of the earliest songs he wrote was a poem. He didn't write the lyrics, but a poem that he set to music called There's a Good Time Coming. And in those lyrics, it refers to the shameful rivalries of creed.
And switching topics, in the past week there has been a lot of news about another Stephen Hawking and his new book, The Grand Design.
The physicist Stephen Hawking has been these days more overt in making non-theistic statements. Let's listen in on some of his interview for ABC TV conducted by Nick Watts.
Can you prove that God does not exist, or just that the universe could have been created without one?
One can't prove that God doesn't exist, but science makes God unnecessary. The laws of physics can explain the universe without the need for a creator.
So science makes God unnecessary. Here's a little more of Stephen Hawking from that ABC TV interview. You'll hear a little bit of the background religious activities as he's talking, in case you're wondering what that is.
Why do so many human beings seem to need a God?
People want to think there is something they can relate to, and which can make them feel they are not isolated, but are part of a larger whole.
Well, so that's very interesting development from Stephen Hawking, who made some sort of Einsteinian metaphorical references to God in his most famous book.
In The Brief History of Time, he ended it with confusion. That thing, we will know the mind of God, which he regretted, by the way.
Which he meant as a metaphor, but you can't say that in today's religion-drenched society. And now we'd like to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the famous secular statement by candidate John F. Kennedy. This is a statement you've heard excerpts of frequently on Freethought Radio. Well, it was delivered 50 years ago this weekend on September 12, 1960, to Houston Protestants.
I believe in an America where the separation of church and state is absolute, where no Catholic prelate would tell the president, should he be Catholic, how to act, and no Protestant minister would tell his parishioners for whom to vote, where no church or church school is granted any public funds or political preference, and where no man is denied public office merely because his religion differs from the president who might appoint him or the people who might elect him. I believe in an America that is officially neither Catholic, Protestant, nor Jewish, where no public official either requests or accepts instructions on public policy from the Pope, the National Council of Churches, or any other ecclesiastical source, where no religious body seeks to impose its will, directly or indirectly, upon the general populace or the public acts of its officials.
Why is it still considered socially acceptable to smear atheists and non-believers? Listen to this comment which Rabbi Daniel Lapin made on the Glenn Beck show last week.
I tell them directly, I do believe that atheists are parasites in the sense they're benefiting from everything that religious culture has built in America, but they're doing nothing to add energy into the system.
Lapin might mean rabbit, but I would call Rabbi Daniel Lapin the lapdog of the Christian right. Whenever the Christian right, Pat Robertson, whatever, wants a token rabbi, they trot out Daniel Lapin.
And he, of all people, should know what it's like to be smeared like this. The Jews all through history have been unfairly and unjustly called all sorts of names. They were called cockroaches and vermin and all these things. And yet here is a modern-day rabbi saying the same thing about us non-believers. We are parasites. And he goes on to say, what contributions have, what's the phrase he used? The despicable scourge on the planet. What contributions have we atheists ever made to make this world a better place? And of course, he seems, grossly ignorant of the fact that atheists and agnostics have contributed immensely to the planet. All you have to do is go to our webpage, the Freethought of the Day,
under the news link,
in which Laurie has written most of those hundreds of brief bios of atheists and agnostics and skeptics in the arts, in the humanities, in politics, in entrepreneurship, in acting, and in
most progressive causes were started by freethinkers because they had to be free from religion in order to be willing to take on the Bible. So when you look at the leaders of the anti-slavery movement, of the enfranchisement movement for women, fighting capital punishment, fighting the inhumane treatment of the mentally ill, because the Bible treats mental illness as demons, for example, of course it would be the freethinkers.
And we mentioned earlier Louis Brandeis, who was a Supreme Court justice, who brought in the right to privacy and
formulated First Amendment policy.
Yes, an immense freethinker, a non-believer.
Well, and Bob Robert La Follette, and his wife, who was a great crusading feminist.
And what I think is ironic is the Christian right likes to sing that song, God Bless America, as the sort of Christian anthem. Well, God Bless America was written by Irving Berlin, and those words were not expressing his views. He wrote it for a character in a musical called Yip Yip Yap Hank. He would have been shocked to realize, well, he did live long enough to see how they had misused a song. Irving Berlin was a non-believer, an agnostic who did not believe in God, and even though he wrote White Christmas, he told his kids, I actually hate Christmas, but he did it because he needed that. So atheists and agnostics, contrary to Rabbi Lapin and other Christian right, have immensely enriched this country, and we are not parasites.
Now, Dan, you got into a correspondence, interestingly enough, with the Reverend Pat Robertson. And before we get to that, let's listen to the remarks that made you see red.
I hate to tell you, you've got to go find somebody else. Really. I mean, either he changes and gives his heart to the Lord, or you go down the road with somebody else. But there is no fellowship between Christ and Belial. I mean, he's going to be serving the devil.
This is Pat Robertson saying that a woman had to break up with her atheist boyfriend because because there's no mixing between believers and atheists. And so, Dan, what'd you do?
Well, he said on that show that there's no fellowship between Christ and Belial. Belial is a name for the devil, a demon, a horrible, uncouth person. And so I wrote a letter complaining to Pat Robertson, asking for an apology.
Was that last week?
That was last week. That was August 23rd. And I sent the letter to Robertson, and a lot of our members said, oh, he's never going to respond, he's never going to apologize. Well, they were half right, because he has not apologized, but he did respond. In my letter, I pointed out, if you had told that woman to break up with a Jewish fiancé because Jews are reprobate, dissolute, and uncouth, which is what Belial means, you would be properly branded an anti-Semite. If you told her to dump her African-American fiancé because blacks are worthless and useless, which is also what Belial means, you would be quickly exposed as a racist. Likewise, labeling the entire class of non-believers as demonic and evil, as the devil itself, is equally abhorrent. I sent this letter off to him, and of course we thought, well, he'd never respond. But guess what? I have a letter. Where's that letter that I have? His response to me? I wish I had. Oh, here it is. I got it right here. All right. In the official envelope from the CBN, Chairman of the Board, Pat Robertson. Dear Mr. Barker, thank you for your letter. If you don't agree with the Bible, I suggest you contact the author and see if he won't change his mind.
Author as in capital A, as in God.
Well, I spent many years trying to contact that author, and nobody was ever home, so that's why I'm an atheist. But talk about passing the buck. Here, he's being accused of insulting and smearing people, and yet he says, hey, don't blame me. So blame his God for being...
this is why the physicist Stephen Weinberg said that good people will do good things, bad people will do bad things, but it takes religion to make good people do bad things.